I work at Perform Group, as mentioned. I am the marketing manager for Perform Group's B2B media brands. I was previously at Opta before I was part of the Perform takeover, and I'm now working there. I cover Opta Pro, and a digital news wire service called Omnisport. So those are my kind of main responsibilities, really. This is a little bit what I'm going to cover. I didn't realise Sandra was going to go so big on the puns. The title, Getting On Side, is the most horrific pun I've ever heard. I didn't choose it. I'm going to apologise for it anyway.
Any other puns?
No, that's it. I've done this really cool. So anyway, sorry about that, but yeah, no more. So apologies. Basically, what I'm going to cover is kind of how do we get to this stage? Why are we all digital fans now? Touch on the World Cup, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about our Know the Fan report, which I will come on to in a bit, but it's a global report, survey done on fans all around the world and how they consume sport. So, how do we get to the point of the official World Cup ball having its own Vine account, its own Twitter account, streaming media, multi-screen, etc., etc. Why are we here? So that was stats from a few years ago, but 2011, 2012, those were global Premier League viewers. We've actually had to make that sliver wider so you can actually view it, because otherwise you won't be able to. So the people inside the stadium represent such a tiny proportion of the people actually watching the Premier League. I know data viz experts would have a go at me for using a pie chart, but I think it really works very well to demonstrate exactly kind of how small the live in-stadium audience actually is. So therefore, that means the vast majority of people are consuming sport, or the Premier League certainly, in a different way. With that in mind, how do you look at the typical football fan? It's not that, really, is it? Bearing in mind the numbers we just saw. Thankfully, it's not that, which is a very, very good thing. The vast majority of football fans are sitting watching television, with a beer potentially, or just sitting on the couch. Sorry?
It's all Borough.
Yeah, it's all Borough, yeah. Scruffy John and Greening there. Quite a few in the pub. Increasing amount like this, so watching on a second screen, a third screen, however many screens you want. Either at home, on the tube, in a park, potentially. We've all done it. We've all done it, don't we, Shy? I'm sure if Sky Go had a category, that would be very, very high on there. What we used to put up with, pre-digital age. When I say we, obviously not me, I'm far too young, but what we used to put up with, that was us following football on the move. That was a Saturday afternoon, if you're out in town. If you wanted to check a score, that's what you had to stand there and wait for the screen to rotate. It was actually pretty similar at home as well. That's how you was either BBC video printer, or it was CFAX again, or teletext. Some of the giants of English football on that screen over there. That was your interactive league table. You know, Squawk wasn't around. You weren't able to mess around with that at all. That was what you had. Do people remember these, by the way? Do you know what these are? Yeah, you know what these are, yeah? You stuck them on your wall. I see somebody demonstrating over there. Little cut-out bits of cards. Every weekend you're going to move the ladders up and down to show the league table. What you'd do is you get to the first couple of weekends of the season, you'd leave it, and for the rest of the season it'd be stuck in that position. But that was your interactivity. That was performance data. Obviously working at Opta and seeing the level of detail we're able to go into and provide to clients like Squawker, etc. That seems fairly archaic, but that was performance data. That's what people had access to on screen. You know, when he made his debut, how many games he's played, how many goals he scored, and the number of caps Marquis had for Wales. That was it. The less said about the analysis side of things, the better. As the 90s progressed and football became more popular, and for any number of kind of reasons that I'm sure many people have written essays about and sociological, whatever, football became more mainstream. As football became more mainstream, papers realised that to sell more copies, you wanted to talk more about football, so they produced pull-out supplements, or they had increased the number of pages they were using to talk about sport. 24-hour news channels appeared. Now that we're in a situation where Sky Sports News have this gleaming brand new studio, they need stuff to fill it, they need stuff to talk about. And there became more ways to follow. Everybody's now got a smartphone, lots of people have a tablet, seconds, third screens proliferated. And it meant that, it's not really worked, but anyway, it meant digital platforms for major sporting events became of paramount importance. Yeah, so there you go. 6 of the top 10 trending topics on Twitter were references to the game, with Brazil versus Germany taking top spot. Tweeting about it in different ways, Chris Palm using StatZone or other apps to show what was actually happening. I think that's an amazing thing. Tweets per minute, from that perspective, is just amazing, just ridiculous. It broke the Super Bowl record, 580,601 in 1 minute, the 5th goal when it went in, and just showed how it increased during the game as well. With that in mind, and with, as we talked about, the proliferation of digital media and how important it is when you're covering sport, every year, Perform Group, alongside Kantar Media and Sport Business Magazine, we produce the Global Sports Media Consumption Report, or the Know the Fan Report for short. What we do with this, 16 global markets all across the world. We conduct 1,000 interviews in each. That will give you enough demographic to be representative of more than 1 billion people, 1 billion fans that follow sport. You can download your own copy on knowthefan.com, but I'm going to give you a few of the highlights here. I think it's important throughout all of this and all the findings, TV still remains the #1 method of consuming sport. So for the chat about second screen, etc., TV still remains the main way people are consuming their sport. However, increasingly, for instance, there you see in the US, 48% of people are using computers to catch up with sports news stories. 74% of people in the UAE, etc. So it just gives you an idea of how things are changing. 56% of fans in Great Britain using a second screen device, but that's just for live text commentary. The report, available in full, will give you so much more detail around this sort of thing. But you can see, since we started doing it in 2011, in Spain, for instance, down there, the number of hours spent per week consuming sport in Spain has increased dramatically as access to new technology and access to sport has increased. The key finding from this year's report was that online has overtaken print in all markets for the first time. Every single market, with the exception of Germany, where, as you can see, it's even. Every other territory, online, as a method of consuming sport, has overtaken the traditional print media. Second screen use does continue to grow. The figures are astounding about how quickly this is proliferating now. While TV is the main method, new devices and greater connectivity mean second screen is on the rise. So as you can see there in China, for instance, percentage of sports fans that use an internet-connected device at the same time as watching sport on television. In many markets, as many as 9 out of 10 fans access sport online at least once a week. This is an interesting finding we discovered, and this is, I think, is probably cultural. It's down to what rights are available on pay TV. But it just shows how, across the world, different people have different attitudes towards paying for sport. Number of hours in a week people will actually consume sport through TV, particularly high in South Africa, the US, the UK. But all across the world, people are spending over 2 hours a week consuming sport via the television. But social networks, as we talked about before, are gaining popularity. The spread of different social networks across the different territories is really interesting, as you can see there. So it's ranked from left to right, so the highest down to the lowest. Facebook, in the vast majority of territories, dominates. YouTube, Twitter in some, less so in others. And obviously in some territories where, China, for instance, where there's only one social media to choose from. But it just gives you an idea of the dominance of Facebook. And even, despite people filling up your timeline with the Ice Bucket Challenge, people are still consuming sport through it as well. People use social in many different ways. How they consume sport. So whether it's following sports stars, whether it's sharing images and photographs from attending sports, whether it's sharing content from sports stars, different ways, but people are still using social on a highly regular basis to share sports content. Those are just a few of the highlights. So you can download the full report from knowthefan.com. I recommend you do so. I've got a copy at the back if anybody wants to have a quick look at it. But that's just a really brief run through.